big name in show business came out for Kamala Harris, from Oprah to Clooney to Beyonce, and she lost every swing state. A survey of Ohio voters found Taylor Swift's endorsement actually had a negative impact, with 24% saying it made them less enthusiastic about her as a candidate. Celebrities aren't helping, and why would they? In a country where the big issue now is affordability, outside of, I don't know, Springsteen and a few others, celebrities don't strike people as relatable or in touch. And what their activism mostly activates is eye rolls.
Comedian Bill Maher is openly criticizing his own political affiliation, the Democratic Party, for what he perceives as an over-reliance on celebrity involvement in politics. Maher contends that the current strategy of leveraging famous personalities to influence the 2028 elections is proving ineffective, and he has articulated his reasons with unreserved, passionate, and direct commentary. We have captured all the highlights of his outspoken critique.
Stars, they're not just like us. They're just not. They fly private. They have 5 houses all over the world. They give their kids ridiculous names. They make candles that smell like their vagina. They wear crazy amounts of jewelry. They buy castles. They buy towns. They buy islands. They have shark tanks.
Maher contends that the Democratic National Committee's preoccupation with securing celebrity endorsements is inherently flawed because prominent figures often inhabit a reality far removed from that of average Americans. These individuals, shielded by their fame and affluence, indulge in extravagant lifestyles while the typical voter grapples with escalating rent, grocery costs, and fuel prices. From Maher's perspective, this profound disconnect renders celebrities ill-suited as spokespeople for a party that purports to champion the working class. They simply don't experience the daily anxieties of checking out at the grocery store, stressing over medical expenses, or enduring the bite of inflation as ordinary citizens do. Consequently, when these personalities deliver political lectures, their messages often strike listeners as insensitive rather than inspiring. Maher suggests that rather than winning over voters, celebrity politics frequently backfires, solidifying the perception that Democrats are out of touch with everyday struggles. Instead of persuading hesitant Americans, such endorsements can feel like wealthy elites condescending to the public, thereby diluting the party's message instead of reinforcing it.
They show up 3 hours late for their own concerts, and people still go. Please, it's okay, you're stars. We like you for who you are. Insulated divas whose talent allows you to pig out on the finer things in life, because we all need something to aspire to. But being talented, which you are, isn't the same as knowing things or having the credibility to advise people on their politics.
Here, Maher delivers his most impactful argument. He readily acknowledges the undeniable talent celebrities possess in their respective fields, yet he firmly states that prowess on a film set or a concert stage does not automatically translate into expertise in politics, economics, or public policy. The ability to flawlessly deliver lines, convincingly portray a character, or sell out venues does not equip someone with an understanding of voters' daily challenges or the intricate processes of national governance. Maher observes that audiences frequently blur the boundaries between entertainment and reality, misinterpreting on-screen authority for genuine real-world wisdom. Actors can embody presidents, activists, or working-class heroes, but these personas vanish once the cameras cease rolling. The core issue, Maher argues, is when the political sphere begins to treat performers as if they are the characters they depict. While this illusion might thrive in Hollywood, in the real world, it culminates in superficial messaging, misplaced public trust, and a political discourse driven more by celebrity status than by factual substance.
You rail against privilege, but you avail yourself of the greatest privilege of all, to remain clueless. Dave Chappelle lashed out at me last month because I called him out for saying there was more free speech in Saudi Arabia than here. Well, I was right. What he said was stupid. America has many problems, including free speech issues on both left and right, but we're real different than Saudi Arabia. If you don't believe me, try opening a lesbian art gallery there.
Maher takes his critique a step further, unequivocally lambasting celebrities for sermonizing to the public about political matters when, in his estimation, many are woefully uninformed. He asserts that fame has created an impenetrable bubble, leading most celebrities to have a superficial grasp of events outside Hollywood, let alone across the nation or the globe. Constantly surrounded by sycophants, publicists, and luxury, they mistakenly equate applause with genuine insight. Maher states that this detachment results in wildly ill-informed opinions being expressed with absolute conviction. To underscore his point, he references comedian Dave Chappelle, who once controversially claimed that Saudi Arabia offered greater free speech than the United States. For Maher, this particular statement perfectly exemplifies the problem: audacious political views constructed on shaky factual foundations. While celebrities command attention when they speak, Maher cautions that listening does not equate to learning. Instead of clarifying reality, celebrity commentary frequently distorts it, leaving audiences more misinformed than enlightened.
Don't know about the real world. So Democrats, it's great you have all the big celebs, but people see them as an arm of the Democratic Party, which they already suspect for lacking common sense. I know the celebrities mean well, and we thank them for having their heart in the right place, but just do you. Do what you do so well. Use your extraordinary talents for the noble cause of bringing relief from the problems that ribbons and pins can't fix. I know it's very important to you that you feel that you're making a difference, so let me assure you, you are. You're making independents vote Republican.
According to Maher, independent voters can readily detect insincerity. They recognize that many celebrity endorsements are not rooted in authentic real-world experience, but rather in performative virtue signaling designed to curry favor with the Democratic elite to these voters. Such displays feel less like genuine concern and more like affluent stars chasing applause and social affirmation. Maher argues that this dynamic makes Democrats appear as ostentatious show-offs, rather than a party genuinely committed to addressing everyday challenges. Instead of fostering connections with ordinary Americans, the party seems preoccupied with its image, status, and validation from Hollywood. That perception, Maher asserts, is detrimental among independents who prioritize sincerity over spectacle. When voters feel patronized by individuals who have never encountered their struggles, resentment quickly escalates, creating a void that Republicans often fill by presenting themselves as more down-to-earth and relatable, regardless of their policy stances. In Maher's view, it is this cultural estrangement, beyond mere policy disagreements, consistently drives independent voters away from Democrats and towards Republican candidates.
Fun photo collage of some of your favorite stars and politicians who speak about the need to reduce our carbon footprint, but who are always on private planes. That's right, all of them. If you don't see a celebrity's picture here, it's because we weren't allowed to use it. Or their series got canceled. But all the environmentalists of Hollywood and Washington do it. Their position on climate change is, we must do more to stop pouring carbon into the air, except for me when I want to go somewhere and then I take a private.
Maher then pivots his criticism towards what he identifies as blatant celebrity hypocrisy, using environmentalism as the prime illustration. He highlights that numerous celebrities loudly proclaim themselves as climate activists, lecturing the public about carbon footprints and personal responsibility. Yet, at their convenience, they frequently opt for private jets, one of the most carbon-intensive modes of travel. For Maher, this contradiction is glaringly obvious and impossible to overlook. It conveys a message that environmental rules apply to everyone else, but not to the wealthy and famous. In his judgment, this double standard utterly demolishes their credibility if one does not live by the values one promotes. He questions why should anyone take their admonishments seriously. Maher argues that this hypocrisy further widens the chasm between celebrities and ordinary Americans, who cannot afford private aircraft and already feel overwhelmed by economic burdens. Instead of inspiring positive change, these inconsistencies foster resentment, reinforcing the belief that celebrity activism is more about superficial image than genuine sacrifice or accountability.
Ed and Greta, that's who walks the walk. Everyone else is full of shit, and I'm done being full of shit. I can take being a bad environmentalist, because almost all of us are, but I can't take being a hypocrite. Now, I always justified renting a plane because I only used it for work and literally could not get to most of my stand-up gigs on time any other way. How do you think I did it all those years? I said goodnight here at 8 p.m. and was on stage in Vegas at 10. But I don't need to do stand-up, like tomorrow night in Albuquerque.
Maher does offer a minor concession, admitting that there are instances where celebrities genuinely need to be in multiple locations on demanding schedules, and in such cases, private jets might be justifiable. However, he draws a firm boundary there. Not every journey constitutes an emergency, and not every trip necessitates a luxury aircraft. In fact, many of these excursions could easily be accomplished via commercial flights or even by car. Yet, time and again, celebrities consistently choose to fly privately, simply because they have the means. For Maher, this choice reveals the true underlying issue: convenience prioritized over conviction. If someone were truly serious about environmental responsibility, they would willingly make occasional sacrifices, even minor ones. Instead, these repeated private flights expose that their activism frequently ceases where personal comfort begins. Maher argues that this pattern reinforces public cynicism, making celebrity environmentalism appear less like a genuine moral stance and more like a branding exercise detached from real-world accountability.
Could fly commercial. Why don't they? Ask anyone who tried to get home for Christmas last year. And don't tell me the younger generation is better. They're not. They're just poorer. They're actually worse. This is who they look up to. The family where everyone has their own private jet. And kids love Bitcoin, which, to determine the value of, takes an amount of computer processing that uses more electricity than some whole countries. Kids could have rejected that, but they didn't. They love it. Why? Because they want to be rich. Why? So they can fly private.
Maher then redirects his attention to the younger generation, targeting what he perceives as performative environmentalism. He argues that many young activists vociferously brand themselves as guardians of the planet, not necessarily because their lifestyles are more sustainable, but often because they simply lack the financial resources to indulge in high-emission luxuries like private jets. In Maher's estimation, this moral posturing loses its value when it's dictated by financial constraints rather than genuine sacrifice. He further notes that this same generation frequently embraces trends that subtly undermine their environmental claim. One example he underscores is Bitcoin mining, an energy-intensive industry that consumes colossal amounts of electricity, leaving a substantial carbon footprint. Maher's intention is not to single out young people, but to expose the inherent inconsistency. One cannot claim the moral high ground on climate issues while enthusiastically endorsing practices that actively harm the environment. For Maher, it's another clear instance of rhetoric outstripping reality, regardless of age.
No one can resist it. John Kerry is our climate czar, and he uses a private jet. It's like if the Secretary of Homeland Security smuggled drugs in his butt. People take jets to environmental conferences. If you could run TED Talks on hypocrisy, you...
Maher unequivocally states that his critique extends beyond the confines of Hollywood, directly targeting politicians who preach lofty ideals but consistently fail to uphold them through their actions. In his view, the underlying issue runs deeper than mere celebrity hypocrisy. It is inherently embedded within the political establishment itself. This is why, Maher argues, Democrats are grappling with a dual credibility crisis. On one front, celebrities vocally champion moral causes while living lives that directly contradict their messages. On the other, politicians echo these same talking points without demonstrating genuine integrity or consistency in their own conduct. The cumulative effect is a party that appears disconnected, insincere, and increasingly untrustworthy to everyday voters. Maher suggests that when words and actions diverge, people ultimately cease to listen altogether. Voters demand tangible proof, not just slogans or virtue signal. Until Democrats confront both facets of this predicament, Hollywood hypocrisy and political dishonesty, Maher believes their message will continue to lack resonance.
But sorry, not sorry. I tried to do my part for the environment. I never had kids. The one thing worse for the planet than private jets. It's true, because then they have kids. I had the first generation Prius in 2001. It looked like a Tylenol gel cap. I was always handing my keys to valets who were driving a better car than me. I had the first Tesla in 2010, and honestly, both these cars sucked.
Collectively, Maher's analysis paints a troubling portrait for the Democratic Party. He asserts that a politics driven by celebrities has evolved into a significant liability rather than an asset, laying bare a profound disconnect between elite voices and the concerns of ordinary Americans. When public figures advocate values they do not embody, and politicians reiterate those messages without backing them with sincere action, public trust erodes dramatically. Voters, particularly independents, discern the performance and resent being lectured by individuals who do not share their struggles. The message is clear: politics cannot be managed like an awards ceremony. Superficiality, fame, and moral grandstanding do not put food on tables or reduce fuel costs. Authenticity, however, does. Until Democrats disengage from seeking Hollywood validation and instead prioritize real-world credibility, they will continue to lose support to Republicans who skillfully present themselves as more grounded and relatable. In Maher's assessment, the remedy is straightforward. The party must cease its performative acts, begin genuinely listening, and actively live by the values it purports to represent.